Okay, so we start with our invocation. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham Dhammam Sangam Namassami. Good morning, everybody. So we start again with our topic, the second noble truth. So we started with second noble truth last time, speaking of Tanha as the origin of dukkha, and we are examining this sutta, the middle, the seamstress, the middle, that you find in Anguttara Nikaya 661, where there are six couples of factors that are first end and second end, and in the middle there is a third one. And the seamstress is craving. Craving is the simile is refers to craving. Sews together the first end with the second end, bypassing the middle, which means it doesn't allow us to see what is in the middle. So we examined the first case, contact is one end, the arising of contact, the second end, the cessation of contact is in the middle, which means that craving constantly links one content to the other and doesn't allow us to see what is in the middle, which is the cessation of contact in the middle. Cessation of contact, which means the experience of the unconditioned. And the second, we examined also the second case, the past is one end, the future is the second end, and the present is in the middle. So craving leads us to dwell in the past or to imagine the future, and doesn't allow us to stay in the present moment. So if we are able to stay in the present moment, only in that case we can have penetrate into impermanence. And so we pass to the third case. The third case is regards feelings. Pleasant feeling is one end, painful feeling is the second end, neither painful nor pleasant feeling is in the middle, and craving is the seamstress. Now, what underlies these feelings are different kind of defilements. So pleasant feelings stems from lust. Painful feeling stems from aversion, and neither painful nor pleasant feeling stems from ignorance. And Bhikkhu Nyanananda quotes this sutta, the dart. It's a pretty famous sutta. The Buddha starts saying to the bhikkhus that both a saint and a common person feel painful, pleasant, and neither painful nor pleasant feelings. So what's the difference? The difference is that a common person like us, when feeling a painful feeling, usually adds to the painful feeling also distress, sadness, and disappointment. It's like being struck by one dart, and immediately after be struck by a second dart. This, the simile of the sutta is that one. A noble one, one who is enlightened, is struck by only one dart, because when he feels a painful feeling, he never gives rise to a negative reaction in the mind. And this is also the arising of dukkha arises from this. So this text says, underlies which are the defilements that underlie this process. So it says, being contacted by that same painful feeling, he harbors aversion towards it. This is speaking about the common person, the worldling like us. When he harbors aversion towards painful feeling, the underlying tendency to aversion towards painful feeling lies behind this. Being contacted by painful feeling, he seeks delight in sensual pleasure. For what reason? Because the uninstructed worldling does not know of any escape from painful feeling other than sensual pleasure. When he seeks delight in sensual pleasure, the underlying tendency to lust for pleasant feeling lies behind this. He does not understand as it really is the origin and the passing away, the gratification, the danger, and the escape in the case of these feelings. These 5 characteristics are repeated very often in the suttas in reference to many different kind of phenomena. So we have to understand how they originate and how they pass away. The gratification is the feeling of delight that comes from a pleasant feeling, for example, and the danger is it comes from inside. The knowledge of the danger comes from inside. That a painful feeling or pleasant feeling or whatever kind of feelings or whatever kind of phenomena doesn't give lasting satisfaction. And the escape is the Noble Eightfold Path. When he does not understand these things, the underlying tendency to ignorance in regard to neither painful nor pleasant feeling lies behind this. So usually we tend to pass from painful feeling to pleasant feeling to painful feeling, pleasant feeling, without really knowing what is in the middle, the neutral feeling. The neutral feeling are very difficult to detect. We need a certain level of insight. And Bhikkhu Nyanananda explains this in this way. The ordinary worldling is seesawing between pain and pleasure, ignoring the neither unpleasant nor pleasant feeling in the middle. The Buddha puts across to us this truth in another way, saying that with what underlies pleasant feeling is the latency to lust. What underlies unpleasant feeling is the latency to hate. And that what underlies neither unpleasant nor pleasant feeling is the latency to ignorance. That is why generally the neither pleasant nor pleasant feeling is lathered over and ignored. We usually are not aware of neutral feelings. It is by exploiting this ignorance that the seamstress craving puts the stitch between pleasant feeling and unpleasant feeling. For deliverance, one has to delve deeper at the middle. In removing the ignorance underlying the neither unpleasant nor pleasant feeling, one hits upon knowledge. In order to bypass the seamstress, one has to have insight directed on the neither unpleasant nor pleasant feeling and understand it in the light of preparation to entertain deliverance. In the light of preparation is a phrase that Bhikkhu Nyanananda uses quite often in this context, means simply that we need to understand pleasant and unpleasant feelings and neutral feelings according to their nature, that is, to be prepared, to be conditioned, and thereby to be impermanent. So if we have an insight into the impermanent nature of all these feelings, and we can penetrate in the ignorance that underlies all this process, we can attain deliverance. So craving doesn't allow us to see what underlies this process, leads us to simply jump from pleasant to unpleasant feeling and vice versa. And so we have to use our sati, our mindfulness, to instead try to detect the real nature of all feelings, in particular the nature of the neutral feelings. And then we pass to the 4th case, and this is pretty deep. We enter into a very deep theme of the Dharma, the relationship between name and form and consciousness, which lies really at the core of the problem. So the 4th case says, name is one end, form is the second end, consciousness is in the middle, and craving is the seamstress. Now, what does this mean? To understand what this means, we need a little bit of background. So what craving is doing here is that leads us to believe that the name and form are an independent reality, separate from the consciousness that knows it. But in reality, name and form depends on consciousness. And this is what craving doesn't allow us to see. Vijnana consciousness is like a mirror that reflects name and form, and for what it reflects back is a self. And craving leads us to believe that this self, name and form, is independent from consciousness. And to understand exactly what all this means, we need to define name and form. And we take for definition the Majjhima Nikaya number 10, which is the Samaditthi Sutta, which says feeling, perception, volition, contact, and attention. These are current mentality. So these 5 factors, and the feeling, perception, volition, contact, and attention, they are the factors that allow us to know something. And the 4 great elements and the material form derived from the 4 great elements, these are called materiality. And we know that great elements in Buddhism are not elements in the normal sense of the word, they are qualities. So the relationship that holds here is that this group of designating factors knows these qualities, so gives a perception of rupa. So rupa in this context is the perception we have of rupa, because it's the perception we have of these qualities. Now, you can find a different definition of nama, and in many traditions, also in the Theravada tradition, a definition of nama that includes consciousness. In some suttas, not in the Pali suttas, but for example, in the Chinese Madhyama Agama, Samyukta Agama, you can find the definition of nama as all those factors that are not rupa, which include consciousness. But there is a case in the Chinese sources, and this is the Ekotarika Agama, that is consistent with the Pali. So, and why should we prefer this definition into 5 factors, excluding consciousness? Because there is one sutta that has many parallels, and is the Mahanidana Sutta, and all these parallels are pretty consistent in saying that Namarupa is conditioned by consciousness, and at the same time conditions consciousness. So there is a mutual condition between these 2 factors. This is why consciousness cannot be part of nama. So there is a mutual conditioning between these 2. Consciousness is the condition for namarupa, and namarupa is the condition for consciousness. And here a loop is created, what Bhikkhu Nyanananda calls the vortex of samsara. And Bhikkhu Bodhi takes also this simile and speaks about the vortex of samsara, because it is in this distorted relationship between vijnana and namarupa that we can understand what's happening and how we build up the world. So what does craving do? Craving leads us to believe that there is a name and form independent from the consciousness that knows it, but this is not possible. And in sermon number 9, he uses the example of Narcissus. I think that everybody knows the tale of Narcissus. Handsome Narcissus, who had never seen his own face, while roaming in a forest, bent down into a pond to wash his face. Seeing the reflection of his face in the water, he imagined an angel in the pond and made a vain attempt to embrace her and pined away and died by the pond. He drowned into the pond. Here too, Narcissus was deceived by the seamstress craving. This is an apt illustration of Namarupa, since the 5 factors of name can be clearly understood through it. Now, so we have these five factors: feeling, perception, intention, content, attention. So feeling is the love or lust giving rise to the perception of an angel. Now, there is a problem in the sense that I don't really understand why Bhikkhu Nyanananda says the feeling is the love or lust, because we know that feeling is just a immediate, very primordial reaction to the content of experience. So, okay, we just don't give too much importance to this and say that feeling is the pleasant feeling derived, in this case, from the image reflected from the pond. Perception of an angel. And then this perception prompts an intention to look again and again. There is an apparent contact to sustain attention. But as it was non-radical attention, or aioniso manasikara, Narcissus was deluded enough to think that he looked because the angel appeared, but the truth is that an angel appeared because he looked. So what is aioniso manasikara? Manasikara is usually translated as attention. Is the factor that directs the mind towards the object and can be wise or unwise. Ioniso is unwise or non-radical. Non-radical in the sense that doesn't go up to the source to examine exactly the phenomena. So aioniso manasikara is the kind of attitude that we usually have towards phenomena, that is an unenlightened attitude. So we see something beautiful, like the example here of Narcissus that sees his reflection in the pond. So it's beautiful. So he has a pleasant feeling. And so when this pleasant feeling arises, it gets carried away by this pleasant feeling. This is called aioniso manasikara. Is an attention that is not wise, is not proper. And what is interesting is the last sentence. He was deluded enough to think that he looked because the angel appeared, but the truth is an angel appeared because he looked. So is when consciousness reflects back Namarupa that we see a self, not before. So it's a consciousness also has a reflective quality like that of water. That is the magical illusion about it. Psychologically, it makes reflection a possibility. Reflection invites attention. Wrong or non-radical attention creates delusion. But radical attention enables one to understand that delusion. Radical attention, now, Ioniso and Ioniso Manasikara are not really defined in the suttas. We have to extrapolate from the various passages in which this kind of term are used. So radical attention, wise attention, is the attention by way of the Four Noble Truths. So that the kind of attention that sees and penetrates reality. Here we can clearly see that consciousness is in the middle between name and form. In order to bypass the seamstress craving with a tactful stitching up, one has to have a proper understanding of the nature of consciousness. Now, although it's not easy to represent this question, so can you see this image? So here we have Vijnana. Vijnana is like a mirror, okay? And then we have this functional unity that is Namarupa. It's a functional unity. The arrow is in two directions because Nama depends on Rupa, Rupa depends on Nama. They cannot exist separate. And this functional unit reflects on Vijnana. But Vijnana reflects back a self. This is what the meaning of the sentence used by Bhikkhu Nyanananda, that one doesn't see because an angel appears, but an angel appears because one is looking. So it's the reflection of Namarupa that is reflected back as a self. And why does this happen? Why there is this distorted relationship between Vijnana and Namarupa? Because of the constant conditioning of samskara. The constant condition of samskara that are all our karma and our defilements, the anusaya, the latency, etc., that constantly condition this knowing faculty that we call vijnana. And so there is this mutual dependency between these two factors, this functional unit that we call Namarupa and this vijnana. And this, why is this possible? Why Sankara can influence vijnana? Because all this happens into this environment, this ecosystem, we can call it, which is avidya. So all this is simultaneous. And this is why craving, what does craving does? It puts a stitch between nama and rupa so that we conceive of a subject that knows an object as it were independent from vijnana and independent from all what's happening here. So this is the meaning behind this point. This is the fourth case. And now we pass to the fifth case that actually is intimately connected with this one. The six internal bases are one end. The six external bases are the second end. Consciousness is in the middle and craving is the seamstress. Now, Bhikkhu Nyanananda doesn't give any explanation of this. So, but we can anyway extrapolate an explanation from other places of his sermons and from the suttas and so on. And here, actually, it doesn't give any explanation because this case is actually a sub-case of the preceding one. Because when we speak of the six internal bases and the six external bases, we are still speaking about Namarupa. So, and the basic function of craving here is the same. So craving leads us to believe that the world of our experience is independent from the consciousness that knows it. But it is not. Because six internal bases and six external bases that we can call the six experiential domains, we can separate the two. The six experiential domains are not independent from the consciousness that knows them. So, but craving wants us to believe that this is the case. And when we speak about the world, when we speak about the six experiential domain, well, actually we are speaking about the world. In Buddhist teaching, when we speak about the world, we speak about the world of our experience, the world of our perception. So there is this very short sutta. Actually, this is all the sutta. There is nothing more than this. That says there is the Samyutta number 1. So is the devas that ask questions and the Buddha answers. So one deva asks this question: in what has the world a reason? In what does it form intimacy? It means in what is connected. By clinging to what is the world harassed in regard to what? And the Buddha answers, in six has the world a reason. In six it forms intimacy. By clinging to six, the world is harassed in regard to six. So the world arises in our six experiential domains. This is the word in the speech of the Noble Ones. This is how the Buddha defines the word. In six, it forms intimacy. It's intimately connected with this six experiential domain. And we cling to this world created by the six domains, and we experience dukkha because of this. So we take this other sermon. This is not an explanation of the Anguttara Nikaya 661. but it explains the function and finality of the six experiential domains. All this goes to show that the concept of a world is the product of the six sense spheres. Those six measuring rods have measured out a world for us. They are the parameters by which the world is constructed. Since the world is built up by the six sense spheres, it has also to cease by the cessation of those six sense spheres. That is why Nibbana is defined as the cessation of the six sense spheres. Salayatana Nirodho Nibbana. All those measuring rods and scales lose their applicability with the cessation of the six sense spheres. How can there be an experience of the cessation of the six sense spheres? The cessation here meant is actually the cessation of the spheres of contact. So we go back to the first case we examined. They are all more or less connected. A sphere of contact presupposes a duality. Contact is always between two things, between I and forms, for instance. It is because of a contact between two things that one entertains a perception of permanence in those two things. Dependent on that contact, feelings and perception arise, creating a visual world. The visual world of the humans differs from that of the animals. Some things that are visible to animals are not visible to humans. That is due to the constitution of the eye faculty. We are different because of evolution. We need different faculties to meet the world in a different way. So the world that we experience and the world the animal experience is the world that is usable for us. It's not necessarily the world as it is. These are the measuring rods and scales which build up a world. Now, this world is a product of the spheres of sense contact, is a world of prapancha, proliferation. Do you remember we already met this term, prapancha, the mental proliferation, which we say that this is the end of a cognitive process when after perception, recognition, and intention, the thinking process starts, and everything comes into it, memories, defilements, etc., to construct something that has nothing to do with the original data. And Nibbana is called a Nippapancha, Nirprapancha, not Prapancha, because it transcends this proliferation, puts an end to proliferation. The end of proliferation is at the same time the end of the six sense spheres. So the six sense spheres represent a duality. A duality, if you know the Paticca Samuppada, the link, the series of link of Paticca Samuppada, you know that Namarupa is the condition of Salayatana. But why is the condition of Salayatana? Because of Vijnana has a distorted perception of Namarupa and creates this split between an internal and external. So there is the need of a contact. So the Salayatana is conditioned for contact. So all these come together. And after that, there is all the other factors of the chain of Paticca Samuppada that come as a result of contact and feeling. So what craving does is to lead us to understand, to see the world as an independent reality, independent from the subject that is knowing it, that is consciousness. So this is the fifth case. And then we have the last one, the sixth case. Personal existence is one end. The origin of personal existence is the second end. The cessation of personal existence is in the middle, and craving is the seamstress. So we are attached to personal existence, and this craving is craving that is linking one existence to the next, without allowing us to penetrate the cessation of personal existence, the cessation of Sakkaya. Now, the cessation of Sakkaya is much more than the simple demise of this body, is the understanding, the deep insight into the fact that existence is basically a concept. And so when all the construction, the illusion of avidya and craving disappears, this existence also disappears. And Bhikkhu Nyanananda explains the sixth interpretation refers to a Sakkaya, which means the 5 aggregates of grasping. Since the Buddha has said that Sakkaya is a synonym for these 5, we met the 5 aggregates of grasping when we spoke about the first noble truth, because the 5 aggregates of grasping are dukkha. And why they are dukkha? Because they are the base for the building up of a sense of identity, and they are they have the nature of being impermanent and selfless. But they are the base for Sakkaya, for an identity, for a personality. So Sakkaya is synonym with the 5 aggregates of grasping, the 5 aggregates subject to grasping. It is due not to seeing the cessation of personality that beings keep on arousing the notion of personality. Worldlings are always on the samudaya, arising. Say samudaya means arising. We usually don't like very much the cessation of things. The seamster's craving hastens to put the stitch under the veil of ignorance. What helps to eradicate ignorance is the perception of impermanence. By developing it, one comes to understand all this as preparation. So, how do we overcome this craving? Is by penetrating into impermanence, have the perception of impermanence, anicca sanya. This is the door that leads us to also to the perception of selflessness, because impermanence leads naturally to the perception of selflessness. So, and in this way, we can understand that all this is just conditional phenomena that arise because of causes and condition, and cease when causes and conditions cease. So, this is the an analysis of the Anguttara Nikaya 661. I know that is not very simple. So don't be afraid if you don't understand immediately. Actually, this takes quite a long time to reflect over and over again. This is what I do myself constantly, to reflect over and over again, because it's not immediate. Why it's not immediate? Because we are not enlightened, and so sometimes there is we cannot really understand what means the cessation of craving, but we can have a glimpse if we constantly reflect on these contents. So the second noble truth ends saying that there are 3 kinds of craving. So craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, and craving for non-existence. Now, craving for sensual pleasures is quite obvious. It's the craving for all kinds of pleasures for all the senses. So listening, hearing, listening, seeing, etc., touching, etc. This is craving for sensual pleasures. Craving for existence is also quite obvious, in the sense the normal person like us crave for a renewed existence. And this is what carries us from one existence to the next. Craving for non-existence is not so obvious. And craving for non-existence, there is no explanation in the suttas what it means. But Bhikkhu Analayo, in a book that is called From Craving to Liberation, which is the first of two books that are basically a glossary of technical terms of Buddhism, spend some time to try an hypothesis of what craving for non-existence could be. So Vibhavatana, what he says is that the most obvious thing that comes to mind when we say non-existence is when one wants to commit suicide. But Bhikkhu Analayo says that actually this is a too simple an explanation for such a pivotal concept. So it tries to figure out what could mean. And in the Brahmajala Sutta, there are 7 bases for the establishing of Vibhava theories about non-existence. So the last 4 are the 4 attainments of immaterial attainments. So Bhikkhu Analayo comes out with the hypothesis that craving for non-existence would be the attempt to attain immaterial attainments and to melt, in a certain way, the self into this bigger reality that is perceived when immaterial attainments are realized. So this would be the end of the self as we normally intend it. So, and actually, it seems that in India there were this kind of doctrines, those that taught that by realizing this kind of attainments, one can melt oneself into this bigger reality. What is the problem of craving for non-existence? Now, if we are not careful, we could think that craving for non-existence should be quite acceptable, in the sense that it denies what we call the self. The problem is that craving for non-existence postulates a self. So it's not very different from the craving for existence. Craving for existence postulates a self of which it predicates eternity. Craving for non-existence also postulates a self, and what it teaches is that this self is subject to annihilation. So is not the middle way taught by the Buddha. The Buddha said in the Katyayana Sutta, it's a very short sutta that you can find in Samyutta Nikaya 12:15, the Nidana Samyutta. The 15th sutta is a very short sutta, the Katyayana Sutta. It has also a parallel in the Chinese. And by the way, is the only sutta that Nagarjuna quotes in the verses of the middle way. And in that sutta is clearly stated that the middle way is between existence and non-existence. So what is the middle way taught by the Buddha is exactly dependent arising. So Nagarjuna takes this for an exemplification of this doctrine of emptiness. So craving for non-existence, a doctrine of non-existence falls short of liberation, because it still postulates a self of which it says, of which it then teaches the annihilation. So it's not a liberation. So it's still a craving. It's still a kind of craving for non-existence. So this is the end for the second noble truth. So there are quite a lot of material. you can slowly try to absorb it by reflection. If you need some PDF of something, I can share with you later on, or you can download from the internet. I think that since this is very much content, I think that the lesson can stop here. We can summarize a little bit what craving is. So craving is the origin of dukkha. Why? Because dukkha, we said, is a mental phenomenon, and it arises not from reality itself, but exactly because we have a distorted attitude towards reality. And this distorted attitude is just craving. So we approach the experiential data by way of craving, conceit, and views. So we project a reality, we project a self, we project a duality into things, and we expect things to be different from what they are because of craving. So we expect things to be permanent, we expect things to be substantial, but they are not, and this is why dukkha arises, because reality goes against our desires, our craving. It goes against our ignorance. So the sutta that we examined, the middle, Anuttara Nikaya 661, exactly points to the function of craving in deceiving us to perceive a reality that is independent from its conditions. So if you analyze the six couples, you will see that there are different points of view from which we can reflect and see how craving is working to build up a reality for us. So is the reality of prapancha. So we live in a reality that is the result of conceiving of prapancha, of this mental proliferation that has very little to do with the original data. And this is so. This is for the second noble truth. So I think that we can stop here, and if there are any questions. Yeah, please.
Thank you for giving us another very good supporting picture. We had the seamstress and now we have the Narcissus and the pond, and it helps us when we start thinking about all these things, and okay, we can perhaps notice in some situation, okay, now I'm in the situation where the seamstress is present and okay, now I'm a Narcissus that is looking in the pond, so be aware. So thank you, that is a very good way of teaching. And as we thought last time, that Buddha is just a major teacher.
Yes, the best of teachers. I can try, if you need the pictures that I showed you, I can try if I can transform into PDF. I tried, but I failed. I can try a different method. If you need them, I will try my best to send them to you if you need them. But actually, I just made them, so they're not really perfect, but at least they give an idea of what the dynamics behind these various factors that come into play into building up our world.
Do you have any advice how to view things objectively? Is there, for example, when you are reading something, is there questions that you can ask yourself that are you now viewing this as it is, or is kind of your mind viewing it through some kind of lens.
I don't understand very clearly your question. Can you?
So for example, if I'm reading some kind of article and I'm probably not kind of understanding the content objectively, I'm kind of understanding through somehow through my experiences. So are there any like tricks or questions that you can ask from yourself, that is this objective way of seeing this thing or seeing the world, or are there any kind of advice for that?
You mean how you contemplate?
Yes.
This is what this is our question. Actually, all goes back to Satipatthana, you know. And what we have been talking about today and also the other times is the result of an insight. But how do I get to this insight? And actually, the Buddha taught us many strategies, and the basic strategy is Satipatthana. Satipatthana is, of course, Satipatthana very often is taught in a very rigid way, in the sense that you first have the body, and then feelings, and then mind, and then mental objects. But actually, Satipatthana is a strategy. And Satipatthana, what kind of strategy is this? Actually, it is explained quite well in the so-called refrain of the Satipatthana Sutta. I can try if I the refrain of the Satipatthana Sutta. Wait a minute. So this is the refrain of the Satipatthana Sutta, and here we have many clues on how to contemplate, and we need to start necessarily from our own experience. And our own experience, what is our own experience? This body and this mind, these feelings are our own experience, right? So we start from that. And actually, also the sutta, the middle, the seamstress, the sutta about the seamstress, doesn't speak about something different from our body, our mind, and our experience. So this is our point, our starting point from for elaborating a contemplative strategy. And so every section of the Satipatthana Sutta is concluded with this refrain. This changes, of course. Here is the body as the body because this is the first section, body is the body, but sometimes it changes, feeling as feeling, mind and mind. So you have to change here. So what does it say here? In this way, he abides contemplating the body as body internally, or abides contemplating the body as body externally, or he abides contemplating the body as a body both internally and externally. Here you have three phases. So the Satipatthana Sutta is all about Satipatthana, Sati Upasthana, Smriti Upasthana, which means the establishment of Sati, the way of establishing Sati. So actually, the object is indifferent. You don't take the Satipatthana Sutta in a rigid way. So you have to be very creative when you do meditation practice. So and you can change focus sometimes. If you can change from the body to the feelings, but there is a constant strategy, and this constant strategy is the refrain. So first we examine our own body, our own feelings, our own mind, and this is the body's body internally. So as body, it means that we don't need to conceive about it. We just examine the body. The first exercise is the examining of the breath, in and out breath, and then the position, the postures, And then you go deeper and deeper. You examine the parts of the body, the anatomical parts. You examine the phases of the composition of a body and so on. So you just, sometimes if you read it carefully, the sutta, you will see that sometimes it does entail reflection. It does entail reflection. But this reflection is not just a thinking, it's not just what we call prapancha, it's just a reflection up to the point. So we first examine this body, and then we examine the body as external, but this is a little bit an evolution in the sense that external means the other people's body. Very simple. The other people's body. What is external to us. And then we come to the point, and this is quite a high level of insight, is when internal and external start to dissolve. So we just examine a body. This is the first part. And what do we examine when we examine internally, externally, and internal, external? We do examine the nature of impermanence. So usually for the majority of people, the contemplation of impermanence is the starting point, the entrance door for contemplation. So because it's easier. This doesn't mean that someone cannot start from selflessness. It depends very much on one's attitude and so on. But usually the majority of people use impermanence. And this is what the Satipatthana Sutta suggests. Or else, he abides contemplating in the body is nature of arising. Or abides contemplating in the body is nature of vanishing. Or abides contemplating in the body is nature of both arising and vanishing. Here also you have three phases. So you have to put them together. First, you examine the body internally in terms of its nature of arising, its nature of vanishing, and then this is a deeper understanding, arising and vanishing. You don't dwell into arising, you don't dwell into vanishing. You examine it simply, you simply examine impermanence. So, but the first step is to examine the nature of arising and then the nature of vanishing. For example, if you use the breath as an object, it's quite obvious, no? The arising of the breath, the vanishing of the breath. And then you just dwell on this flux of impermanence, internally and externally, and then just as it is. And then we arrive to the end of the refrain, which is quite a high level of insight, or else mindfulness that there is a body is simply established in him to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and mindfulness. Here there is always only there is the object that I take, for example, a body, is simply there for exercising mindfulness and bare knowledge. So here we are at the level of constant mindfulness. We are trying to develop constant mindfulness, and mindfulness that doesn't stop, at least when we are awake. And then for those who are very, very deep, very, very keen in practice, also during the night. One can be mindful also during the dreams and during the night. So here you develop a constant mindfulness, and he abides independent, non-clinging to anything in the world. This is the result. This is already means that one has already slowly it develops. Actually, the sentence here is the result of a process. Actually, speaks about the result of a process. During this process of constantly exercising mindfulness by examining impermanence in phenomena, and for phenomena we take our mind and body and feelings, what is our experience. slowly we arrive to the cessation of clinging, the cessation of craving. And this is how a bhikkhu abides contemplating the body as a body. Same for the feelings, etc., etc. And actually, for example, the 4 postures. This is a very practical exercise, actually. And also the next one, full awareness. You can take these 2 together, and they are very practical. So you just keep your mindfulness, whatever you are doing, whatever your position, whatever you are doing. If mindfulness slips away, you take it back. So we usually change between formal meditation and meditation during normal activities. This is very good for meditation during normal activities. So you don't focus anymore on the breath, because it's difficult when you are working on doing something, but you focus on what you are doing, what is your position. Actually, it seems very simple, but yeah, I think that if you meditate, you know very well that it's not that simple, and actually is very effective in leading the mind to understand impermanence. If you understand impermanence and selflessness are connected, because if one thing is impermanent, and slowly you can see also that this condition, it cannot be independent, it cannot be a self. So this, if you constantly exercise your mind to look into impermanence, and this is what I think I mentioned, the fact that we have to train our perception. This is a way of training our perception. So if you train your mind to perceive impermanence, at a certain point, the mind really will perceive impermanence, but not at the superficial level. You will come to a point in which you really, reality really starts to become fluid. And then you understand that reality cannot be solid. There are no selves. And this is a process. And in this way, you slowly cultivate those faculties that allow one to penetrate into the nature of craving, so dismantle the process. It was this was your question, right?
Kind of, this was a better answer to the question that I was asking, that there are kind of no shortcuts in understanding reality objectively, other than self-reflection and
no
training, and it just takes time.
Yes, of course, it takes a lot of time. Also, also what we are talking about today, this sutta, is not easy. So, for example, what I quote, the Bhikkhu Nyanananda, the Nibbana sermons, I read them, I don't know how many times, to just start to extrapolate what is the meaning behind. So you need a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of reflection. You have to reflect on it in a way that at a certain point, reflection becomes a sudden understanding.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of time,
Yes, I read that sutta before, but I didn't understand it in this way before. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's not very easy. I know that it's not very easy, but I mean, you can try to read also all the sermons of Nibbana, the Maestilla, all the sermons from the first one. It's not easy. It's not easy. Also because the English is not very, very good. It's very convoluted sometimes. So sometimes it's difficult to catch the fundamental point. But if you read again and again, at a certain point, it makes a lot of sense. It has its shortcomings, of course.
Yes.
But yeah. Is You can start from that, or from more basic things, and you have to apply both things, the theoretical understanding and also the practice. And the practice is basically the Satipatthana, basically.
Yes, thank you.
We recite our transference of merit. We share all the merits we have just accumulated with all sentient beings, so that they can realize the perfection of wisdom and be free from any suffering. Homage to the Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to the Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to the Buddha Shakyamuni. Okay, so see you next Sunday for the last lesson. And then we will see. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a nice day.